They arrived quietly, though their presence was impossible to ignore. Not with a shout, not with anger, but with a subtle pressure that pressed against the edges of your mind. You might not even have noticed it at first. Perhaps it came in the form of a look, a word left unspoken, a shift in the air that made your chest tighten ever so slightly. And yet, in that small tightening, something began to stir. A restlessness that was not truly yours but seemed to live inside you, as though borrowed from somewhere outside. Have you ever felt that? The quiet, almost invisible tug that makes your heart skip a beat, that makes you question why you feel so uneasy when nothing appears wrong. That is the storm whispering. It does not roar. It does not break the branches above you. It moves softly, like mist, and you can feel it only if you listen closely. And sometimes you do not listen. Sometimes it grows inside you unnoticed, and the tension coils tighter around your thoughts. They speak, or they act, or they simply exist, and somehow the world shifts. You notice the smallest things. The tone in a word, the flicker of a glance, the way a smile carries just a hint of something unspoken. And suddenly, the room feels heavier, though nothing has truly changed. Can you feel it now? The pull of someone else's energy settling into your chest, as if it belongs there. It is subtle, but it is there. It is a quiet storm that asks you to respond, even when you do not know how. And the strange part is, you are not angry at them. Not yet. Anger would make the noise loud, and this is a soft noise, almost invisible. But the stirring inside you is like water beginning to ripple under a frozen surface. A part of you wants to move, to act, to speak, to fix the unevenness of the world. Another part knows somehow that the storm will pass if you only remain still. Have you noticed how the mind fills the spaces around small disturbances? A glance, a word, a sigh. They echo inside you. You replay them, turn them over gently, wondering if you misheard, if you misunderstood, if perhaps you should have done something differently. And in this repetition, the storm grows, not in size, but in presence. It is as if the world has pressed itself into your chest, seeking a response, demanding recognition. Yet there is something in watching the storm quietly that no one tells you at first. The small awareness that you are more than these ripples, more than these gentle pushes and pulls. And still you wait. The chest tightens, the breath catches, the room feels smaller than before. They do not notice the effect. They may never notice. And yet you feel it. You carry it like a soft weight, and you wonder silently why the world often whispers so loudly through those who do not mean to shout. Do you remember the last time you were truly silent in such a moment? Not the silence of words only, but the silence of the whole being, the stillness that rises when nothing is done, when nothing is said, when the storm moves over you and yet cannot touch the stillness inside. That is what begins here. That small, trembling awareness that you can exist quietly, even when they are present, even when their energy presses against yours. That is the beginning of something subtle, something almost invisible, but powerful nonetheless. You might find yourself noticing the tiniest things, the way your hands rest on your lap, the rise and fall of your own breath, the flutter of your heart beneath your ribs. The room seems to stretch and breathe with you, and for a moment you are not moving with the storm. You are only observing it, feeling its presence, but not letting it claim you. Can you feel the difference? The storm is outside, and the quiet grows inside. It is delicate, fragile, yet it is the first sign of strength that does not shout. And as you sit there, letting the tension pulse softly through the edges of your mind, you realize that this quiet is not emptiness. It is something alive. It is the soft tremor of your own awareness. It is the beginning of understanding that you do not need to answer every ripple, that you do not need to join every whisper of the storm. You can watch, you can breathe, you can exist in the space between their presence and your response. And in that moment, small as it may seem, something begins to shift. The storm is still there, but it has no hold over you. You have not spoken, you have not reacted. You have only felt quietly, fully, without needing to change a thing. And in this quiet observation, the first seeds of calm begin to take root. The whisper of the storm remains, but now it is a sound that no longer disturbs the depth of your own being. There is a space that opens when words are left unspoken, a quiet hollow between what is said and what is felt. Have you ever noticed it? It is not empty, though it may seem so at first. It holds a strange weight, a subtle tension that rises from the unfilled pauses, from the silence that lingers longer than comfort allows. And in that space, your own heart becomes louder than anything else. Your own thoughts, your own breath, your own small trembling feelings. It is a strange place to be. The world outside continues, as if nothing has shifted. Yet inside, the silence grows thick, almost tangible, pressing against the walls of your mind. You may wonder if you are doing something wrong, if staying still is a kind of weakness, and the quiet seems to answer with nothing at all, leaving you alone with the stirrings of your own soul. Does it frighten you? Or is it simply unfamiliar? Perhaps both. In this space, you begin to notice how easily the mind fills its emptiness. It creates stories from glances, from fleeting expressions, from the smallest movement of someone else's hand or the light in their eyes. And sometimes these stories are not kind. Sometimes they twist into judgments, misunderstandings, or worries that seem larger than they ought to be. Can you hear them? The quiet, gentle, constant weaving of thought that fills the space between words. And yet, there is something delicate in this discomfort. It is the sensation of being misunderstood, of being seen but not truly known, of having your intentions overlooked or misread. You feel it in the chest, in the shoulders, in the slight tightening of the jaw, a restless stirring that whispers, almost too softly to name, "What will you do now?" And the answer is not easy. The answer is silence. Silence is not absence. It is not a blank sheet upon which nothing exists. It is a mirror reflecting your own presence back to you. And in this reflection, you begin to sense the rhythms of your own being. The quiet pulse of your heartbeat, the slow, steady rise and fall of breath, the subtle warmth in your hands. It is as though the world has moved aside, leaving only you in the center of all that is still. Do you feel how different it is to simply sit and notice without shaping or changing anything? To observe the stirring of thoughts, the rise of discomfort, the unspoken words floating around you, and yet to remain untouched by them. It is not easy at first. The mind will resist, will whisper that you must act, that you must speak, that you must correct the small imbalance you sense. And still you sit, still you breathe, still you allow the silence to stretch long and unbroken between what is outside and what is within. There is a strange patience in silence, a quiet teacher that asks nothing of you except to notice. And in noticing, you discover something that cannot be found in noise or reaction. You discover the weight of restraint, the strength of stillness, the subtle power that lives not in speaking, but in the act of not responding. Have you ever felt it? That soft, quiet strength that grows when the world presses at the edges of your being and you simply remain. And sometimes in this space, the discomfort blooms into something else. A clarity that feels like a gentle light breaking through a fog. You see the patterns of thought that rise and fall, the echoes of misunderstanding, the silent pushes and pulls of energy around you. And in seeing them, something shifts. You no longer need to chase, no longer need to explain, no longer need to react. You only watch. You only breathe. You only exist quietly, fully in the space between words. It is not always calm, not always easy. The mind may whirl, the chest may tighten, the heart may ache with the longing to move or speak, and still there is a deeper current, steady and unshaken, that flows beneath the surface, a soft knowing that the world will continue, that their energy will shift and sway, and that you need not follow its every motion. You are here, you are still, you are quiet, and in that quiet, something begins to take root. It grows slowly, almost imperceptibly, a sense of self that is not defined by reaction, a dignity that does not rely on approval, a power that rests entirely within. And though the world outside may continue to stir and whisper, you remain in the center of your own being. The silence is no longer a burden. It is a companion, a guide, a mirror of your own inner life, reflecting a strength that is calm, steady, and entirely your own. And so you sit, breathing with the quiet, feeling it move through you, noticing without interference, allowing the space between words to stretch and settle. And in that space, you begin to understand. The silence is not empty. It is alive. It is full of awareness, full of presence, full of a subtle, gentle power that no one can take and that no one can disturb unless you allow it. And then, in the quiet that follows the storm, a realization begins to rise. It comes not like a shout, not like a sudden illumination, but like the soft light of dawn spreading slowly across the horizon. You notice it first as a small sense of ease in the chest, a loosening of the tight coils that have held your thoughts for so long. You have been still, and in that stillness something shifts. Have you ever felt that? The gentle weight of understanding settling quietly within? They continue, as they always do. Their words, their actions, their presence still press against the edges of your awareness. And yet, now you notice that their force has no claim over you. It may brush against your skin like a cold wind through the trees, but it cannot move the ground beneath your feet. Something inside has changed, almost imperceptibly, like water finding its own level. The mind begins to see what the heart has been quietly learning. True strength does not shout. It does not demand attention. It does not rise in anger to meet the noise outside. True strength sits quietly in the center of the self, unmoved by the currents that swirl around it. Can you feel it? The difference between reaction and presence, between being pushed and being still, between the noise outside and the quiet inside. It is strange, this power. It does not make the world bend to your will. It does not seek victory or recognition. It simply exists, like a mountain rooted deep in the earth, indifferent to the winds that pass across its slopes. And yet, in that simple existence, there is a weight, a dignity, a sense of self-respect that no one can touch. You begin to realize that it is not they who hold the power. It is you, quietly, fully, beneath the surface of what can be seen. Have you noticed how the heart changes when the mind finally lets go? How the small aches of frustration begin to soften? How the restless stirring of the chest settles into calm? It is as though a quiet river has begun to flow beneath the stones of old tension, carrying them gently away, leaving the surface smooth and still. You begin to see the patterns of your own life with a new clarity, not with judgment, not with anger, not with worry, but with a quiet, observing mind. And the world continues, as it always will. They speak, they act, they move in ways that test patience and resilience. But now, when their words brush against the walls of your awareness, there is no response, no tug at the heart. You have learned to hold yourself with quiet firmness, to keep the boundaries of your own being intact, to let the currents pass without being carried away. Do you feel that subtle shift, that gentle difference between being buffeted and being unmoved, between reacting and simply being? It is in this space that respect begins, not from others, but from yourself, not from their recognition, but from the knowledge that you can remain whole even when pressed, even when misunderstood, even when the world seeks to pull you into its noise. The quiet power of your own self-discipline becomes a light that cannot be dimmed, a strength that grows precisely because it does not need to announce itself. And sometimes, in the stillness of your own awareness, you notice that their judgments, their provocations, their whispers have lost their weight. They may have moved you once, perhaps many times, but now you see them as passing shadows, soft echoes that cannot touch the depth of your being. You feel a new patience, a gentle tolerance, a steady knowing that life flows as it must, but your center does not need to move with it. It is a subtle kind of joy, this quiet power, not the bright fleeting pleasure of victory, but the deep satisfaction of being aligned with yourself, of knowing that you do not need to prove anything, that no one else can define the value of your heart or the measure of your mind. It is a soft, enduring strength that comes from watching, waiting, and holding still, and in it you find a calmness that no storm can shake, a quiet dignity that no noise can disturb. So you sit, breathing slowly, feeling the gentle pulse of your own presence. And in this stillness, the realization grows. Strength is not found in reaction, in argument, or in the restless chase of recognition. Strength is found in silence, in patience, in the quiet knowing of your own worth. And though they may continue to stir the world outside, you have discovered something eternal within, something unshakable, serene, and entirely your own. And now, after all the whispers, all the small storms, all the moments when the chest tightened and the mind spun with questions, there comes a quietness that feels different from before. It is not the absence of noise, not the stilling of the world, but the gentle settling of something inside you, a calm that has grown from patient observation, from silence, from the simple act of not reacting. Can you feel it? That soft presence that rests in the center of the heart, untouched by what passes beyond its walls? It is a calm that does not rush, that does not need to prove itself. It does not announce victory, and it does not demand acknowledgement. It simply is like a river flowing slowly through a valley, carrying everything along its banks without needing to move anything. You notice the difference between this and the restlessness that once lived in your chest. It is deeper, quieter, more enduring. It is a presence that does not need applause or recognition to exist. Have you ever watched the sky just before night falls, when the last light softens and the wind seems to pause for a moment? That is how it feels inside now. There is a stillness that invites you to breathe slowly, to notice the gentle rise and fall of your own chest, to feel the warmth of life quietly pulsing within. The tension that once pressed against your ribs has eased. The mind no longer seeks to chase every small ripple that passes across the surface of life. You have found a center, and it does not move for anything or anyone. They continue their own journey as they always do. Their words, their judgments, their movements, all still pass through the world, touching some, shifting others, creating small disturbances. And sometimes you may feel the faint echo of their presence, a soft pressure on the edges of awareness. But it is different now. It does not pull you. It does not unsettle you. You can notice it, acknowledge it, and yet remain fully yourself. It is as though the world has been softened by the quiet strength you carry within. And what is this strength, if not a gentle kind of freedom? A freedom that comes not from bending others to your will, not from asserting dominance, not from speaking over the noise, but from simply being aligned with yourself. There is no struggle here, no need to prove, no urgency to act. It is a quiet assurance that the heart can remain whole, the mind can remain clear, even when the currents of life push and swirl around it. Can you feel it now, this soft, steady power that lives entirely in your own being? It is not loud or showy. It does not clamor for attention, but it is real. Like the deep roots of a tree that hold it steady through every storm, unseen yet unshakable. You begin to notice the small pleasures of this quiet life, the way the air feels against your skin, the soft pulse of your own heartbeat, the gentle rhythm of breath. Each moment becomes a point of awareness, a quiet witness to your own presence. And in this witnessing, you find a sense of peace that cannot be disturbed. Sometimes, thoughts drift in, memories, worries, the faint ache of longing for understanding or recognition. And yet, they pass like clouds across the sky, noticed, acknowledged, but not clung to. You watch them move, and they do not shake the ground beneath your feet. You remain still, steady, quiet. The calm has grown strong enough to hold all that passes, and in this holding there is no fear, no need, no ache, only presence, only quiet, full awareness. And in the deepest moments of this awareness you understand something that words cannot fully capture. That peace does not come from the world changing, nor from others seeing you clearly. It comes from the small, quiet choices made again and again, to watch instead of react, to breathe instead of rush, to honor the self instead of bending to what passes around you. And in this understanding, you realize that the life of quiet strength is not lonely. It is complete. It is whole. It is entirely your own. So you sit in the soft, steady calm that has grown from silence and observation. You notice how it feels to be entirely present, entirely at peace, without needing to speak, without needing to defend, without needing to prove. The storms of the world may continue, the currents of others may still press and swirl, but they are no longer yours to carry. You carry only this quiet strength, this soft, unshakable presence, and it is enough. It is more than enough. And as the light softens around you, as the breath rises and falls, as the heartbeat continues its gentle rhythm, you simply exist, fully, calmly, quietly. And in this existence, you have discovered the truth of silence, the power of restraint, the beauty of self-respect. The calm remains. It is not loud. It does not demand. It simply is. And in that being, you have everything